My friends, we gather today on the brink of disaster. The Doomsday Clock stands at just 90 seconds to midnight, the closest we've ever been to annihilation since the height of Cold War tensions in 1953. The Russia-Ukraine war edges us closer to nuclear confrontation. We've seen the devastation. Entire cities reduced to rubble, millions displaced, and civilians killed. From Kiev to Moscow, the fighting rages on. The U.S. has approved over $67 billion in military and economic aid to Ukraine, while steadily expanding NATO eastward in violation of the spirit of the agreement following the end of the Cold War. Russia threatens nuclear retaliation if the West intervenes directly. Yet hawkish politicians downplay the risks, even suggesting limited nuclear war is winnable. But as Eisenhower warned, you cannot have this kind of war. There just aren't enough bulldozers to scrape the bodies off the streets. Sisters and brothers, we stand at the precipice of oblivion. Just a fraction of the thousands of ready warheads ignite global annihilation. So I ask you, is this the world we wish to leave our children? A world forever poisoned by radiation, with survivors struggling atop the smoldering ashes of civilization? Or can we yet summon the wisdom and courage to pull back from the brink? On this solemn anniversary of nuclear destruction, we condemn the heedless rush towards war. We mourn lives sacrificed in all conflicts fomented by imperial greed. And we vow to reclaim America's destiny, not as an exporter of violence and war, but as a beacon of hope. Like Dr. King's dream, everyone here shares a dream that one day all people will stand together and say no to the warmongers driving humanity to extinction. We know this dream is possible because we see the seeds of unity here today. We are parents, teachers, students of all races, faith, and background, yearning for peace. We've endured endless emergencies together, lockdowns, mandates, censorship, and crushing inflation. We've awakened to the truth that real power resides not in Washington, D.C., but in we the people. Our elites want us to believe that we are powerless, that only elections can bring change. But voting alone has failed because both parties are controlled by the banks and the military contractors, not the people. We cannot vote our way out of endless war and suffering. I'm speaking to you here today as a Republican candidate for president, not to ask for your vote, but to ask instead for you to join me in an act of radical noncompliance. You know, and I know that the winner of the 2024 election is going to be the same that it has been since 1948, the military-industrial complex and the banks. Nor as we stand in front of the United Nations can we expect the inevitable march towards one world government to be the solution, as much as Oppenheimer and others may have believed. Indeed, the consolidation of power by NATO, the UN, and other groups like the World Economic Forum ends in complete global tyranny, where every movement is measured and tracked. Behavior is rewarded and punished as determined by a small group of self-interested elites, and free will itself is surrendered to the New World Order. This dystopian nightmare built on fear and control will not make us safer, happier, or more fulfilled. My friends, since Eisenhower's warning decades ago, the military-industrial complex has metastasized to a beast with a voracious appetite. Last year, total U.S. military spending exceeded $800 billion. The Pentagon is missing trillions and has failed 2 consecutive audits. We have over 800 bases in 70 countries worldwide. And who are the beneficiaries of this war machine? Corporations like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Boeing, and a long list of politically connected defense contractors who meet in dark, smoke-filled rooms who have made trillions in death and destruction. They deploy their army of lobbyists to ensure the river of cash keeps flowing, no matter the human cost. The banks are just as complicit in this web of violence and greed. J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and others have arranged billions in loans funding the Iraq war in Ukraine, profiting on interest in enabling military adventurism while crippling nations large and small around the world. These banks have not only harmed us as a nation by funding both sides of endless war, but as individuals. Their predatory practices have exploited minorities and the poor, and their crimes against peace are assault upon humanity itself. They impose racist redlining and predatory loans on Black and Hispanic families trying to achieve the dream of home ownership. They aggressively market high-interest private student loans that can't be discharged in bankruptcy, trapping generations of students in permanent debt serfdom to banks. They close bank accounts of political activists and stifle dissent by controlling our access to financial services. And all of us here today are likely targets. They are not our friends. So we must take nonviolent action into our own hands and forge a new future based on free will, abundance, and love. But before we do that, we must defund the war machine, stop World War III, and regain financial sovereignty. How many here show of banks distrust or dislike big banks? So we are unified, both in wanting to stop the destruction of humanity and in a shared distrust and dislike of banks. The big banks fund the unholy trinity of weapons manufacturers, paid-off politicians, and military contractors. We must unite to excise this cancer before it's too late. I call on all people of conscience to unite in a common cause I refer to as Fiat exit or fix it. Fiat is government-issued currency like the US dollar, backed by nothing, worthless pieces of paper with no tangible value. IOUs from a corrupt government that has lost the confidence of its people, creditors, and ratings agencies. Exit, leaving the corrupt financial system controlled by central bankers for non-government alternatives like gold, silver, and crypto. Fiat exit, or fix it, is a boycott, a mass exodus of our dollars into self-custody alternatives. Banks are now Ponzi schemes that print monopoly money out of thin air. Banks are no longer required to hold any customer deposits in reserve. What this means is that a small percentage of people converting dollars into alternative stores of value can halt the entire system. Starve the beast. This is how we defund the war machine and regain control. Some label this call for peaceful resistance too radical, but those in power will call any challenge to their profits too extreme. They said the original American revolutionaries were too radical, that abolitionists and civil rights leaders were too radical. If radical means going to the root of injustice, then we must be radical. My friends, as detailed in my book, The Final Countdown, if just 3% of us convert our dollars to alternative stores of value, we could collapse their entire house of cards. Fiat exit ends the tyranny of central bankers who manipulate our currency and enable endless wars. Future generations will tell the story of the day we found our voice and said, enough, the war machine ends here. The Fiat Exit Manifesto calls for mass noncompliance to reclaim our destiny. It is a call to action all citizens should read and can be found at day2024.com. It has already been read 1.1 million times, and I will read an excerpt from it now. Fellow Americans, the time has come for us to unite and take a stand against the encroaching threats of World War III, financial collapse, political persecution, censorship, and global tyranny. We must recognize that change won't come from protest or the political process. It demands our collective courage to engage in mass civil disobedience. Let's come together, boldly say no, and take action to dismantle the corrupt system that seeks to undermine our freedom. We must starve the fiat currency that fuels war. By embracing crypto, gold, and silver for day-to-day commerce, we can challenge this monopoly and secure our freedom. Separate money and state. Our call to action is simple. Participate in an exit of fiat currency, exchanging your dollars for alternative access like cryptocurrencies, gold, and silver. Then tell 3 others to do the same and encourage them to spread the word to 3 more people. Just as the 3% of the population who fought in the American Revolution made a profound impact, so too can we transform our society through collective action. The time is now. Join us in this vital act of noncompliance and reclaim the destiny that belongs to each and every one of us. Are you ready to withdraw your consent and take back your power?
Yeah.
If everyone here who hears this message, whether here live in New York City or one of the 19 sister rallies from Austin to Austria, Germany to Guatemala, Chicago to Chile, or citizens streaming this worldwide, if everybody took heed, we could end the war machine within weeks. It's up to we the people. Let them hear us. Fix it now. Let them hear our voices across this land. Fix it now. Let them hear our voices in Kiev and Moscow. Fix it now. Thank you.